Robert, you stated that you're not perfect. Um, yes, none of us are perfect, but we must acknowledge when our imperfect behavior becomes more than a oops. That's why I think a lot of us today are here, because our incidents have become, more than just an accident, or maybe reoccurring, or it's caused pain and hurt to other people. So yes, I just want you to, you know, not beat yourself up for that. None of us are perfect. Even if you wasn't here in this group, none of us can deem ourselves perfect. So don't, try to live up to that standard. It's unrealistic. And we want to make sure we're setting, realistic goals for ourselves. Robert, when I ask you, what do you think about being here for the third time? And your first response is that you felt that it was ridiculous. Let's dig into that a little more if you don't mind. If I may open this response up into the whole group, by a quick show of hands, how many of you can identify with, feeling like, oh my goodness, this is outrageous. What am I doing here? This is ridiculous. Like, if we can be honest with ourselves, if you have felt that, by a quick show of hands, let's, okay, yeah. See, I felt that's something that, people in the room could identify with. But if we may, let's unfold that. What is it about being here exactly makes it ridiculous? Is it the fact that it keeps happening? Robert, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard you say you don't understand why you can get some things, but this particular controlling yourself, you don't understand why you can't get that like other people, right? You also mentioned that you grew up in a hostile environment. Would it be a fair statement to say that you're modeling the behavior that you saw growing up as a child? And let's open that up to everyone. How many you can, how many of you could say you remember as a child seeing physical or verbal abuse? And we'll open this up to everyone. What role do you think that plays in your current response or your ability to cope with uncomfortable situations? How many of you feel like that plays? We've learned, whether this is your first session or your 19th session, that a lot of behaviors and our responses are learned behaviors, that we picked it up at some point. We saw it. In some instances, it might have even been expected of us. It's not until it becomes a situation of concern due to harm. Someone's being affected by it, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And so, this is where we take a closer look at those things and get to the root of the issue. Where did it come from? Where did you first remember yourself struggling with being able to deal with stress or respond positively to it? I think at looking at the root of the cause, it helps. And through research, we also learned that hurt people hurt people. And Robert, you mentioned that, coming from an abused environment, you stated as you was continually being abused, it fueled the fire, and those things that you just continually to pack on and pack on and pack on. And so I just want to say to you and everyone here, this is the place where we unpack those things, that we, look at those things that we, been carrying around for so many years, consciously or unconsciously. We want to use this opportunity to release those things. Let's talk about the ugly things. Let's address those things, because I, for one, have been in a place to where the behavior that I exhibit, I thought that it was the correct response because I thought it was the correct response because that was how I was always treated, or I was never allowed any other option in how to address it. So I think a lot of times we're not taught how to properly and appropriately cope with stress or cope with situations that we cannot control. And I think if we could, all of you, take like 30 seconds really quick and think about what was, the immediate feeling right before you committed the action. What was going on in your mind? What were you feeling? What was happening around the environment? If we can identify the triggers, we're able to learn how to respond to the trigger and not just act out, if that makes sense. Let's take a moment to dig into that. As we prepare to close up, I just want to share with you guys, the goal here is to grow with the tools you have gained, whether this is your first session or your 19th session. Now, be mindful. I still want you guys to be truthful in everything that you feel. And if you're not yet there, like you feel like others around you are arriving to a aha moment or, a peaceful place of how to resolve issues, and you're not there, state that and don't beat yourself up for it, because we all arrive at, places at different times. So I want you to stay true to yourself and be truthful in saying, listen, I hear what you guys are saying, but I'm not there yet, so that we'll know how to continually address and break down these issues. It's not a competition. Like someone mentioned earlier, what's wrong with me? I can't get some things. I can get some things, but I can't get. Let's not take the approach as what's wrong with me, but how can I become better? That's where I want each of you to go home and kind of ingest that and think about it and meditate throughout the week until our next session is, don't focus on what's wrong with you, but look at all the ways and consider all the ways that you can be better to prevent. Not for someone else, but for you. You want to be a better person for you. And I just want to say, even though this was a mandated session, I want to thank you guys for being bold enough to share your stories so that, we each can grow and learn from each other's experiences. So I want to thank each of you for that. It's through these dialogues that the revelation begins to happen and growth takes place. So until our next meeting, I'll see you guys next time, and be mindful. Let's not take the approach as what's wrong with me, but how can I become better? That's where I want each of you to go home and kind of ingest that and think about it and meditate throughout the week until our next session is, don't focus on what's wrong with you, but look at all the ways and consider all the ways that you can be better to prevent. Not for someone else, but for you. You want to be a better person for you. And I just want to say, even though this was a mandated session, I want to thank you guys for being bold enough to share your stories so that, we each can grow and learn from each other's experiences. So I want to thank each of you for that. It's through these dialogues that the revelation begins to happen and growth takes place. So until our next meeting, I'll see you guys next time, and be mindful.